Same way as in the small town of Hue in South Vietnam, several thousands of Vietnamese were executed in one night when the city was captured by Viet Cong for only 2 days. And American CIA could never figure out how could possibly communists know each individual, where he lives, where to get him, and would be arrested in one night, basically in some 4 hours before dawn, put on a van, taken out of the city limits and shot. The answer is very simple. Long before communists occupied the city, there was extensive network of informers, local Vietnamese citizens, who knew absolutely everything about people who are instrumental in public opinion, including barbers and taxi drivers. Everyone who was sympathetic to the United States was executed. Same thing was done under the guidance of the Soviet embassy in Hanoi, and same thing I was doing in New Delhi. To my horror, I discovered that in the files where people were doomed to execution, there were names of pro-Soviet journalists with whom I was personally friendly.
Pro-Soviet?
Yes.
Communist listing has been a tactic which has been used, as Yuri Bezmenov explained, with the Vietnam, Cambodia, Korea, and I really didn't put all these connections together until I ran across a video that we'll play at the end. But I was at the Moore rally, and Lacy MacAuley, she claims to be the leader of Antifa East Coast. I interact with her, and we had gotten into a heated conversation where she was, describing herself as a revolutionary communist. This is the common theme that we're hearing: revolutionary communist, anarchist. And I didn't realize it until later that at the end of the conversation she was snapping a picture of me. And I thought she was snapping a picture of my shirt because I had a shirt from the Moore rally which said, "No Antifa, no KKK, no racist USA, Patriots Unite." And I thought maybe she was just taking a picture of my shirt, but I didn't really realize until later that she was actually taking my picture to list me and put me on the communist kill list, the communist hit list. And, you guys don't have to believe this for yourself. All you have to do is look at the evidence. Look at these people are ideologically subverted. They really do believe in communism. And as the history shows, before a communist revolution takes place, they do this years and years ahead. Way before there's even a resistance movement, they'll start documenting and deciding which people need to be killed because those are the ones that aren't going to lay over and die. And it just, now that I think about it and I put it all together, it's horrifying, really. But here we have an article about communist listing. China seizes up your private data and intellectual property. This is terrifying also, because now China is making it illegal for businesses to run over there unless they store our sensitive data over there. It says Washington asked Beijing to refrain from enforcing a new cybersecurity law that would require foreign and domestic companies to store our user data in China and submit it to security checks. And they want to store our data over there so that they can continue to compile their list. And that's the whole thing, is that once this civil war kicks off, just like in Korea, just like in Vietnam, China's going to be the first one to come to the communist aid to give them arms and munitions to fight and kill Americans. So we're going to roll that clip, and you guys just be the judge for yourself. Multiple sources.
So I would like to talk briefly about the concept of a hit list. This is kind of hard for people to believe that Antifa would go to the trouble of putting together a hit list of people that they would target. And, I have talked briefly about my sources for the hit list, coming directly from Antifa and also from watching hundreds and hundreds of hours of live streaming of these events and hearing them reference it and seeing them say things like, "Hey, get that guy's picture, put him on the list. Make sure you get that guy's picture. Yeah, make sure you get a good picture of him." So the hit list and the purge. a Polish citizen who is a survivor and of the communist takeover of Poland, and he escaped communism. And I believe what he wrote, and it's historically true. In my studies of communist takeovers, the hit list is one of the key elements. It's often the thing they start working on even before they start training and planning for the takeover, is that they want to know who are the people that are going to oppose them, who are the people that are rebellious, who are the people that need to be eliminated or imprisoned for re-education. In communism in Russia, there was a thing called the Gulag. In Cambodia, it was a prison. There were several of them, but the worst one was S-21, a re-education camp. And so they compile a list of perceived enemies. This is documented. But back to this Polish citizen. You know, he talked about how there was a list in Poland. It was one of the very first things they did, was compile a list of individuals who they knew would not comply and not roll over. So Antifa they're communists. They don't argue about that. They don't deny that. They come straight out and tell you they're communists. And why wouldn't they, if they're students of communism and communist takeovers, and they'd have to be to make this work, why wouldn't they have a hit list? I mean, those of you who say that, that I'm crazy and Antifa wouldn't have a hit list, honestly, you're just ostriches with your head buried in the sand. Your head buried in the sand. You're just refusing to look at what is obvious. There absolutely is a hit list. People on this hit list include people who are active supporters of the Second Amendment. People on this list are people, because that gives, if you have guns, that gives you the ability to resist. So they want to get rid of those people first. They want to get rid of people who are defiant, who would die for their beliefs. So religious people who feel so strongly about their faith they would die for their beliefs, they're being put on the list. If they're planning an overthrow of our government, and they say that they are, then you would have to be a fool to not believe that there is a list. You put that with what I am telling you about an Antifa hit list. And what you've got here is the truth. What you've got here is a reality.
There are no longer painter divisions dotting the landscape, head-to-head combat, or artillery, blasting in the wee hours of night. But if we didn't believe our enemy wasn't out there alive and strong, we wouldn't be here today. It's a new enemy, a faceless one. Just like the Nazis, or the rebels, or the redcoats, this faceless enemy hates our way of life all the same. The enemy hates our freedom, despises our bold American ways, wants to topple our government and burn the statues and monuments of this national law. Who is this enemy, you may ask? If the enemy doesn't use guns, they don't use artillery, what are the enemy's weapons against us? Put simply, our enemy employs fear, disinformation, black propaganda, uses our own ignorance against us, what can properly be called socialist ideological subversion.
Amen.
An ancient Chinese military general Sun Tzu said, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting, to break them without fire, not bullets, but bullets will fire a single shot. If the mind is willing, the flesh will go, and you can defeat them without open conflict. The enemy plays off of our differences, our perception. The enemy loves to promote racial tensions, always taking a little back with a mountain of fiction in order to amplify the battlefield call. When you see a publication such as German Der Spiegel or the Stern, and I blew them up for FedEx, but we don't have them up on the stage because we know the media will misrepresent what we're saying. Then you start to see really how far the enemy is willing to go to deceive and stir conflict. Publications like The Economist and Time follow suit weeks later, revealing how far our enemy's network spans continent to continent. And you want to see those, Their pull-ups, they're over there. You can see that on the right side of the slide here. They want to break our culture, tell us we are wrong for saying Merry Christmas, harass us for doings that never happened to them by people who are long dead. This is what ideological subversion is. It turns us against our parents, makes us hate the very flag that gave us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those two European publications are confirmed former channels of Soviet disinformation, confirmed by former Czechoslovakian intelligence agent Litman, tools the communists employed against East and West Germany in order to sow division, break the German will, and keep Germany from uniting. Some of you are old enough to remember MAGA #1 with Reagan's famous words, "Tear down that wall." America always has a way of defeating, totally obliterating its enemies then and now. I'm here today to call all patriots to stand under one united party, the National American First political party, a dagger to phony rhinos of the Republican establishment like Paul Ryan and Jeremy Kent, who won't let freedom or who does. I also call for all disenfranchised Democrats who saw Hillary and Debbie Wasserman Schultz steal the nomination from Senator Sanders to voter fraud to join our National American First movement. We welcome you with open arms. And with our ancestors looking down from the pearly gates of paradise, in the words of one of the great forgotten presidents, Dwight D. Eisenhower, I use one measuring stick by which I test all major problems. That yardstick is it good for America? Check this out, we have that problem.
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country.
Is the New World Order breaking you down? Do you feel like your sanity is hanging on threads? Does the doctor want to prescribe you meds that will turn off your conscience to go shoot up a public school? You need Sane State, the all-natural, non-GMO from plant-based herbs, anti-anxiety supplement. It is a doctor's capsule formulation. You know, not like those pesky tablets that GNC overprices that get left behind for the plumber in your septic since they don't dissolve in the stomach. Same state, taking back your mental. Only at vigorvault.com, baby.